Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela Wolf, the Bestie Life, the podcast, and today I have the pleasure and privilege of speaking with Dr. Susan Landers. She's a retired neonatologist, author, and speaker who has practiced full-time in the NICU, written a book about her so many babies and balancing a busy medical career and motherhood, and sharing her own experiences about motherhood, work life, home life, and burnout. So thank you so much for being with us today. How are you?
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes.
I love your podcast. I've listened to several of the episodes. It's really quite good.
Thank you. Thanks. No, I definitely feel like we've all got a great story to share to help connect and build each other up and inspire and empower each other. And so I would love for you to share maybe just a little bit more of your background. I know that was a super brief bio of all the amazing things that you have to offer.
Well, I started out as a neonatologist. That's a pediatrician who takes care of critical care, babies in the critical care unit, babies in the NICU. And that was an exciting job, a little bit stressful, but very exciting and rewarding. Then I got married and became a mother. And I had 3 children within 7 years. And so the biggest challenge for me early in my career was learning to be a working, busy physician mother and learning to be a good mother. And it literally took me 7 to 10 years. As a pediatrician, I thought I was going to be the perfect mother or super mom. That notion was thrown around back when I was younger. And you have children, and then you discover there's no such thing as being a super mom. We're all doing the best we can. We are all with our children as much as we can be. And if we work full time outside the home, it's really difficult to juggle your career, your husband, and your children, much less friendships and family. So I learned how to take care of myself with the help of my husband the first 10 years, and then something amazing happened. He got a great job offer and we moved to a different city. My job there was not perfect. It was adequate, but it wasn't perfect. So here I was with 3 little kids, new school, new neighborhood, no friends, no support system.
Oh my gosh.
And I fell apart, literally. I think that was my first episode of mother burnout. I became clinically depressed, although I kept working through all of it. I thought, okay, I have to go to work. I have to take care of patients. I have to do things at the school. And I just kept doing and doing and doing. Fortunately, I worked with a psychiatrist. And I began psychotherapy and some medication. And he encouraged me to look at all my priorities. I described myself to him as if I was the man on TV that runs around on the stage, spinning sticks with plates, spinning on top of the sticks. And you would run from one plate to the next, and you would keep them all spinning. And when one wobbled, you would run over and take care of it. And I've said, that's me. That's my life. And he laughed that day, Daniela. He said, why don't you just take down some plates? And that man helped me to learn to choose my priorities, not just rank them, but choose them. And I let go of a research project, and I let go of something I said I would do at the school, and I let go of a few other things, but I didn't let go of my 3 kids.
Yeah.
I did not let go of my marriage or my husband, and my job changed. And through all of that, I actually made a job pivot. I began to work as a medical director for an insurance company, which was very eye-opening. So that experience, that motherhood burnout experience, taught me to choose my priorities, to choose the things that brought me joy. It emphasized that I was doing too much. I wasn't taking good care of myself. I was running around being everything to everybody. And throughout that experience, I learned how to really talk to my husband, really delegate things to him, things that he could do, really use my time more wisely.
Yeah.
And so I began to use some techniques that helped me stay even-tempered, level-headed, get everything done.
Right.
I began to exercise regularly. I went out to lunch with friends. I played with my children. They were still young enough that we could play with them in the yard, at the pool, and the playground. And at work, I found a mentor to help me sort through the issues in my workplace. And so I guess my care, the care of myself during that time period, during my recovery, was multifaceted.
Right.
It was not only nutrition and exercise and sleep and things that created well-being, but it was also making choices at work and involving my husband so that he understood what I was going through.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about that, because I think, you've said so many amazing things that I'm sure all my listeners are like, oh my gosh, yes. Because I think we do take on, regardless of what our roles and our jobs and what we're professionally trained in, I think sometimes it's assumed, whether you're a physician, I'm a social worker, because professionally understand these things, that we're able to apply them always instantaneously in our own personal life. And I love how you share that it was a multi-year journey. It took 7 years. And I'm sure each kid brought a different thing. When you thought you had it down with one kid, all of a sudden you're like, oh gosh, this isn't working.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it is such a learning process. And the fact that we put this pressure and this expectation, like we should know how to do it all, that we should be juggling and doing all these things, isn't the case. And I think the way you worded it, that your psychiatrist told you, and in their own matter-of-fact way, like, well, just take the plates off. Like, not like it never occurred to us, but it's like you almost kind of need that outside voice giving that permission and that reason to validate that it's totally okay to not do it all. Because if not, we carry then that guilt, which only, perseverates then our feelings of the things we should do and have to do. But, when you talked about having conversations with your husband about it, because I think that's an area sometimes people are so, whether it's uncomfortable or don't feel like they're going to get the response of that support. They're like, well, I asked for help and it only happens once, or it doesn't look the way I need it to.
Right.
How do you respond to that part of it? Because I know that's a big area for people.
Yes, it is. I was lucky in that my husband liked to cook. And so he ended up doing grocery shopping with the kids. That was his Saturday thing, and most of the cooking. And I did everything else. I did school and sports and teachers and birthday parties and sleepovers and uniforms and costumes and on and on and on, and pick up and drop off and all the things that we do that he could have cared less about, all the things that moms do. So we divided the labor. Some people say you should share it, but for me, it worked to divide it.
Okay.
And then I learned how to delegate to him. I was great at delegating in the hospital and the NICU. I could say, would you please do this? Would you do this? But I had to learn to tell my husband what I wanted him to do or ask him. Sometimes I even wrote it down, because I don't think men think like we do. Like if you're having a birthday party, you're going to tell him exactly what you want him to do before and during the party. The other thing I learned about my husband is he's like a lot of men. He wants to fix things. When women tell men they have a problem, the men say, "Oh, tell me all about it. I'll help you fix it." And what we really want is for them to listen and to understand.
Yes.
And to know how we feel and know what we're going through, not to fix it for us. We're going to fix it. They're going to be our helpers.
Right.
And when I learned how to invite my husband into my world and my feeling, and when I learned how to delegate things to him, we were so much happier. And he was always a good dad and always active and always helped. But he and I didn't learn to communicate until I went through that very bad period.
Right. And I think the communication part, it's important because it's not just with your spouse. Sometimes it's whether your parents are helping or whether you're hiring help or whatever that delegation needs to look like, even to your own kids, like even though you're taking care of your kids, sometimes you're like, okay, well, you need to put your laundry away. You're doing this, you're doing that. And kind of letting go of being the sole person to take care of everything is such an important part. And I don't think we always role shift super well. Like you said, we can do it in one setting professionally, but personally, we become different people sometimes when we're at home.
I agree. And I'm a great list maker. And I did that at work and I did it at home. And I taught 2 of my 3 children that it was nice to make lists because you can see what you've got to do during the day or for the week. And then you can look back at the things that are checked off or accomplished throughout the week. And so I used those. And as I said, I taught my husband how to make lists. I taught my nanny how to make lists. I was very, very privileged to be able to afford a nanny when I was at work. When one of us was gone. And a lot of moms don't have that privilege. I'm so grateful that I had that. A lot of moms are depending on family members, unpaid childcare, friends, other types of daycare situations. But I always had a nanny who could pick up the phone and call me, and I would say, "I'll meet you at the school," or "I'll meet you in the emergency room," or whatever happened bad. She would talk to me and tell me what was going on. And I would delegate to her, "I need you to get this birthday present let Ann pick it out for her birthday party because I forgot to do that." And she would go, "Okay." And I would leave with the money. So I was really, really lucky to have good help.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, sometimes having those lists isn't even always about seeing what you get done, but maybe being able to then look at what are you missing. And then those are the areas that you can then kind of pre-plan, come up with systems, come up with solutions. Because I think if we try and look at everything as a whole and just look at, well, these things aren't getting done. Well, to be able to see the source of why can be so powerful in coming up with those options.
It is. And I think self-reflection, one of the other things I learned how to do during that time, I had always done it because I was a runner when we lived in Houston. And at the end of the day, if my husband came home and took over the kids, I'd go take off for a run and be gone for 30 or 40 minutes. But even when I wasn't running, I was outside walking in nature, around green, preferably in sunshine. That was a huge mood booster for me. And I discovered that very early in my being a mom. If I got the kids in the wagon and took them to the park, or if we all rode our bikes down to the playground, it made me feel wonderful. I could leave behind the stresses of work. I could teach the children it was okay for grown-ups to play sometime. I read a paper just yesterday about the benefits of playing and how grown-ups in the pandemic have forgotten how to play. We've been cooped up. now we're all getting out. So it's the perfect time for working moms, working dads to get outside with their kids and play
Absolutely.
and have fun.
Be silly. I always
Yes.
use even like bubbles as part of
Yes.
a stress reduction breathing technique. Blowing bubbles is amazing.
Yes.
And to be able to do it with your kids, model those skills for them is only
Yes.
going to help them learn those stress management and coping
Right.
and self-care things that, we're trying to incorporate ourselves.
I did not learn about breathing techniques early in my motherhood journey, but my daughter, who's 34, has taught my granddaughter how to breathe properly. And if she ever gets excited or overwhelmed, her mother will say, Catherine, calm your body. And Catherine will take a breath, and she'll put her hand on her chest, and she'll take deep breaths, and she'll say, okay, I'm okay now. And it's just amazing to watch. It's so wonderful.
Well, our kids, they learn what they see us doing. And if they see us taking care of ourselves, doing these things, they mimic what we do, not what we say, unfortunately, but, and so I think it is so important to show them to play and happy and the power of laughter and fun. And it can be more powerful and magical than being serious and working. I always think of the movie, I don't know if your grandkids have seen this, Monsters, Inc., where they think they need to scare kids into getting energy, but actually laughter is a more powerful source of energy.
Right. I think my kids learned from me how to work too much, how to work too hard. And when they got older, when they were, in high school, I had to talk to them about not giving all the time, not doing everything you think you should do, but choosing the priorities in your life. If being the captain of the swim team and being a team teacher, leader, and taking 3 AP classes is a lot, and it is, don't take on one more thing, which will tip you over the edge. So I had to say to my daughter in high school, I had to say, honey, there are only so many things you can do.
Yeah.
And you need, and I think you can make choices about the ones that mean the most to you. And she let some club go and she let another thing go. And within a few weeks, she said, well, I feel so much better.
That's awesome. I love that.
She recognized that she had patterned like me, do it all, professional woman, and then found out that was too much, as a lot of us do. A lot of us find out it is too much when we finally burn out as mothers.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, as a society, we don't talk enough about being in that place. We always try and present such a different image. So like I said, I love your vulnerability and just sharing this and being able to help hopefully connect by sharing those moments and those feelings, as well as what's helped get you out of it. Because that's the part too. It's like we can all relate to the negative. We all commiserate. We all can kind of share our not so great moments together. But then it's like, okay, well, now what are we going to do about it? So I love that you offer those options and solutions to make some changes, some very specific, concrete, actionable steps that don't have to cost a lot of money, that are just very simple strategies. I love that.
One of the things I learned in my 40s, I think I knew it in my 30s, and it just fell into place more easily because I was still in a place where we had all gotten married and had babies around the same time. But in my 40s in a different city, and then again, and when we moved to Austin, I learned the importance of a network of friends, a support group. And if I didn't take care of my friendships, if I didn't talk to people at work or have pizza with them on Friday evening or get together after church on Sunday, if I didn't do those things, I just felt kind of adrift. And as I look back on getting together with friends, we talked about our children, we talked about our husbands, we talked about our work. We commiserated. If somebody was having trouble, we would say whether or not we understood. And it was just so comforting to know that everybody was going through similar situations.
Absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, the pandemic had that isolating factor that
Oh,
made
yeah.
so much of this so much more unbearable, because
Yes.
you felt like you were the only one. You didn't see what everybody else was dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really well, but now everybody's out and about. They will remember how much they love being with their friends, playing with their children, being outside.
Mm-hmm.
The other special thing I learned along the way, probably later when I was in my 40s, was to actually start to journal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I had time for it when I was younger. I probably didn't have time for it. I'm a very left brain person, very left brain, logical, math, right-handed. And I had a therapist once that said, if you're stressed, and I had a pretty high stress job, being in the ICU all the time. If you're stressed, whether it's about your work or your children, write down what you're stressed about. Write down your feelings. Just put pen to paper, not typing, but writing. Mm-hmm. And what happens in the first 10 or 15 minutes is that you actually allow your right brain to engage. You turn off your left brain. The feeling part of you gets out, so to speak, gets expressed. And journaling actually is a great way to unload stress from your life. And I found that out in my 40s.
Absolutely. That mental fatigue of the fact that we keep track of all the things plus our feelings on top of it, by getting it out, not only releases that fatigue, but I've also found too, we have a conversation in our head ongoing all the time, and we can hear it in a different voice once it's out of our head. Reading those words on paper can sound so different than what we've heard repeating in our head for the last hour. And we can have a different perspective and reflect at it almost as if a friend said it to us, and respond in that same kinder way than maybe we typically respond to ourselves in our own head.
Oh, that's a great point. And I have gone back through some old journal entries, and it's not exactly like a diary, but it's very telling about things that I went through being a mother. Mm-hmm. If I was upset about something that one of my kids had done, and I was trying to work through it. And as I read back through how I put my struggles and my feelings on paper, I actually thought, well, we got through that. We did pretty well. I mean, we made it through and everybody was okay. And so it was a way of remembering something that I did that was actually successful as a mother. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's even funny, like how sometimes, even just now, like reminiscing with my kids, some of like those, what you think of our horror stories at the moment, those are our funniest memories to like talk about and recall. Like, remember that trip when
they're the best.
Yeah. Even at the time you're like, oh my God, this is the worst. I can't believe all this is happening. Those are the things that you can laugh about and reflect on in a way that you realize I didn't mess them up because of it. They weren't expecting perfection. I was the only one.
The other thing I learned how to do probably in my early 40s, right after I burned out, was to admit when I was wrong, to admit when I was done. If I had come home from work and I was stressed out and just really couldn't connect with one of my children, I would say, I have really had a very hard day. I just need about 10 minutes to just sit and think, sit and relax. Honey, I'm so sorry. I just need to settle. And I would tell them the truth. If I had had a bad day or if I had lost a baby, God forbid. And they told me later, we could tell when you got home if you had a bad day or not, Mom. You didn't have to tell us. We could tell, and we would give you a little time. And then, within 30 minutes or so, or at supper time, we all shared about our day and you felt better. And my kids learned to give me some space. And I learned to do the same thing for them, especially when they were teenagers and young adults.
Absolutely. The space and grace, I think, that we don't always give ourselves when people can see the benefits of it. It's huge, for sure.
Oh, I like that term, space and grace. It is grace. You're really just sort of unloading the burdens that you've been carrying around during the day, especially if you're working outside the home, because you don't want to bring all of those work burdens to your physical body or your emotions when you're interacting with your children. It's really easy to feel good with kids when they're little. You can hug them, you can tickle them, you can wrestle. It's fun. It's all playful. But as they get bigger, they do less hugging and it's more conversational. And so learning the space and grace that mothers do almost instinctively is such an important part of being a good mom.
Yeah, but also learning to give it to ourselves. I think
Absolutely.
sometimes we give so much to other people that we don't give back to ourselves. And I think if we treated ourselves sometimes the way we treat other people, we would feel so much better.
Yes. I had a friend in Houston who was a psychologist for an infertility clinic, and she taught me to buy myself some fresh flowers every Friday or Saturday afternoon as just a gift to myself to remind me how hard I had worked during the week. And you know what? My daughter does exactly the same thing. I love it. I go over there and say, oh, more flowers.
Yeah. But it is, we need to treat ourselves the same way we would treat other people for sure. And I love that you've given those gifts to your kids. You can just hear in the way you talk about it, the things you've instilled in them and that they're now instilling in their own kids. What a great legacy to be able to pass down to them.
Right.
What would you say are some of the things that you're most grateful for, kind of looking back on all this? Because I think gratitude's a big part of self-care as well, and being able to recognize what's gone well, what is good.
I am grateful for being a physician and being a neonatologist because I have always loved taking care of babies. I love interacting with parents and the nurses. Since I retired, the thing I miss the most is my team members, my teamwork. So I'm grateful to have a job that was meaningful, that made me feel good about my skills. It was fulfilling to take care of patients. So I was very grateful for that. I'm very grateful that I had 3 healthy children. One of my pregnancies was complicated, but they all turned out fine. And I am extremely grateful that I had 3 healthy kids. Each one of them brought different things to me to manage and help them through. And I turned into a better mother as each child came into my life. Yeah. It was amazing. I was more tired, but I was better.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I've been married for 38 years. And, I think it's really hard to stay married these days. And for your listeners who are trying to stay married, it is a very important thing to do for yourself, for your longevity, for your health. Did you know people who are married live longer than people who are single or divorced? And they're happier. And so the companionship of marriage, all the things that we went through, being 2 doctors, raising 3 children, doing the best we could, all those things are an amazing experience. And I'm so grateful for that.
No, that's fantastic.
My heart,
I was gonna say, to find, someone that you had a happy and healthy relationship, because I do always like to promote, to stay in a relationship only if it's healthy and safe for you to stay in that situation, for sure.
Absolutely. So I guess those are the 3 things that I'm most grateful for. I'm grateful for my faith too. I always use my faith as a bolster. It was constantly present and there whenever I needed it. And I used it a lot in meditation, but more in journaling. So.
No, that's fantastic that you found all those paths. Where can my listeners find you? How can they connect with you?
Oh, I have a website, susanlandersmd.com. And if they type in the website and a / and burnout.
Okay. I think I'm going to have that link actually in the show notes, so they'll be able to click directly on it.
Burnout in caps. It will take them to a checklist of working mothers burnout. And that's a free checklist on my website that I've developed and I've tested with a lot of my millennial mom friends. And so I would love for your listeners to go to that site and get that checklist and see where they are.
Awesome.
I also have some resources, some solutions for working mothers who are feeling overstressed. And that's on my resources page.
Okay.
It's also free, and they can download a PDF file there.
Fantastic. And like I said, all these links will be live in the show notes below. So thank you so much. I love everything you've offered and shared, and I'm so excited to continue to talk again in the future. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Daniela. You're a dear.